Let me know in the comments which city you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe.
It's funny, isn't it? How life just happens. You wake up one day thinking you've got it all figured out, or at least that you're stuck with what you've got, and then bam! Something hits you, something you never saw coming, and suddenly your whole world flips upside down. That's exactly how it felt for me, Sophia. For so long, my days were just a blurry repetition of cleaning houses, scrubbing floors until my hands ached, and then coming home to a silence that was always just a breath away from shattering. It was a silence filled with unspoken threats, with the memory of the last blow and the dread of the next. I'd perfected the art of smiling through the pain, of holding myself together with superglue and sheer force of will, just so no one would ever suspect the rot festering beneath the surface. Every morning, before the sun even thought about peeking over the horizon, I'd be up, moving like a ghost through our small, perpetually dim apartment. The first order of business was always the same: checking the bruises. Not just a quick glance, but a full, painful inventory. My arms, my ribs, sometimes even my face, though I was getting better at shielding that. I'd stand there, under the harsh glow of the bathroom light, tracing the angry purple and yellow patterns, a silent promise to myself that today would be different. But it never was. The routine, the fear, it was a heavy blanket draped over everything, suffocating any spark of hope I tried to keep alive. The shame, though, that was the heaviest part. A constant companion whispering that this was somehow my fault, that I deserved it. Working for Gabriel was, ironically, the only breath of fresh air in my suffocating existence. His place was huge, always meticulously clean, which made my job easier in a way. But it wasn't just the house itself. It was him. Gabriel wasn't like the other clients. He had this quiet way about him, a kindness that was disarming. He'd often be in his home office, working on blueprints or something, and sometimes he'd just look up, catch my eye, and offer a simple, "Good morning, Sophia." It was just a greeting, nothing special, but coming from him, it felt different. It felt seen. And for someone who had become so good at being invisible, being seen was both terrifying and, strangely, comforting. I thought I was good at hiding. I mean, really good. Long sleeves, high collars, always finding an excuse for a stumble or a clumsy accident if a sleeve rode up a little. Too far. I'd practiced my excuses in front of the mirror, making them sound just casual enough, just believable enough. But Gabriel, he wasn't easily fooled. I remember this one morning. I was dusting a bookshelf in his study. My arm stretched up, and my shirt sleeve slipped. There it was, a truly nasty, greenish-yellow bruise blooming just above my elbow. I quickly pulled my sleeve down, heart hammering against my ribs, convinced he hadn't noticed. He was engrossed in his computer, or so I thought. But then, out of nowhere, he cleared his throat. I nearly jumped out of my skin. He didn't look at me directly, just kept his gaze fixed on his screen, but his voice was different, softer than usual. "Sophia," he said, and my stomach plummeted. "Are you all right? You seem a little quiet today." It was a simple question, but the way he asked it, the genuine concern laced in his tone, it sent a shiver down my spine. It was the first time in a very long time that someone had truly seen me. Not just the cleaning lady, but the person beneath the facade, the person who was hurting. And in that moment, I knew, deep down, that my carefully constructed world of secrets was about to come crashing down. I just mumbled something, probably about being tired, and tried to disappear back into my work, my face burning. He didn't press it, not then, and I breathed a silent sigh of relief. But from that day on, I felt his eyes on me more often, not in a creepy way, but like he was observing, putting pieces together. I started feeling more exposed than ever, and a part of me, a tiny, desperate part, almost wished he would say something, anything, just to break the suffocating silence of my life. It was a terrifying thought, but the weight of my secret was becoming unbearable. Each day felt heavier than the last, like walking through quicksand. Then came the day I tripped. Or rather, I was tripped. Robert had been particularly nasty that morning, angry about something trivial, and he'd shoved me hard as I was leaving for work. I caught myself on the doorframe, but not before my head smacked against it, leaving a blossoming knot above my temple. No amount of makeup or strategically placed hair could hide that. I went to Gabriel's house that day feeling utterly defeated, the ache in my head mirrored by the dull throb in my soul. I kept my head down, avoided eye contact, and just tried to get through the shift. I was cleaning his kitchen, wiping down the countertops, when he walked in. He didn't say anything at first, just poured himself a glass of water. I could feel his gaze, though, a silent pressure. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, almost a whisper, but it cut through the air like a knife. "Sophia," he said, and I flinched, my hand freezing on the counter. "What happened to your head?" My mind raced, trying to conjure up a believable lie, something about walking into a cupboard, but the words just wouldn't come out. My throat felt like it was closing. Up. I just stood there, unable to speak, tears welling up in my eyes despite my desperate attempts to hold them back. It was like a dam had broken. All the fear, all the shame, all the years of silent suffering just overflowing. He put his glass down, very carefully, and then he was standing in front of me, his eyes filled with a raw, undeniable concern that made my carefully constructed walls crumble. "Sophia," he repeated, his voice even softer now. "Who did this to you?" And that was it. The dam truly burst. I just started sobbing, shaking my head, unable to form a single coherent word. He didn't touch me, didn't try to comfort me physically, which I appreciated. He just stood there, letting me cry, letting me unravel. When my sobs finally subsided, leaving me gasping for breath, he spoke again. "Sophia," he said, his voice firm but still gentle. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to, but I need you to know you're safe here. And if you ever need help, real help, I'm here. You don't deserve this." Those words, "you don't deserve this," hit me harder than any physical blow. No one had ever said that to me before. It was like he saw right through all the layers I'd built up, straight to the bruised and broken person underneath. In that moment, a tiny, fragile seed of hope began to sprout in the barren landscape of my life. That day was a turning point, even if I didn't fully grasp it at the time. Gabriel didn't push, didn't pry, but his unspoken offer of support hung in the air, a constant, comforting presence. It made the air in that big, quiet house feel different, less heavy. I still went home to the same fear, the same cycle, but now there was a tiny crack in the wall I'd built around myself, a sliver of light getting through. I started looking at him differently too, not just as the boss, but as someone who genuinely saw me, someone who cared enough to notice. It was a strange feeling, a mix of gratitude and a quiet, budding hope I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. A few days later, something else shifted. I was cleaning his study, and he was on a call, his voice low, intense. I tried to tune it out, to focus on my work, but then I heard a name that made my blood run cold. Robert Miller. My Robert. My stomach clenched. It couldn't be, could it? Robert wasn't exactly a common name, but Miller? That was too much of a coincidence. I froze, pretending to dust a picture frame, my ears straining to catch more. Gabriel was talking about some old construction accident, something about faulty materials and lives lost. 3 lives. My mind raced, connecting dots I never knew existed, dots I desperately wished didn't exist. My Robert had always been cagey about his past. He'd told me he worked in construction, that he'd had some bad luck with a previous company, but he never, ever went into detail. The way he avoided the subject, the way his eyes would glaze over if I even tried to ask, it should have been a red flag, I know, but when you're caught in a spider web, it's hard to see the threads. Now, hearing Gabriel, the pieces were clicking into place with a horrifying, sickening precision. The coldness in Robert's eyes, the volatile temper, the way he could snap from calm to rage in an instant, it all started to make a terrifying kind of sense. He wasn't just abusive, he was a monster with a past. I was only just beginning to uncover. I don't know how I finished that day's work. My hands were shaking, my mind reeling. Every little thing Gabriel said, every gesture, I was replaying it, trying to figure out if he knew, if he suspected my connection to this Robert Miller he was discussing. The sheer audacity of it all, that I, his wife, was cleaning the house of the man who seemed to be investigating him. It was like something out of a bad dream. I felt a surge of fear, Not just for myself, but for Gabriel too. What if Robert found out? What if he connected the dots on his end? The thought alone made my breath catch in my throat. When I got home that evening, Robert was already there, sprawled on the couch watching TV. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I didn't just see my abuser. I saw the man Gabriel was talking about, the man responsible for those deaths. It was like a veil had been lifted. The anger, the fear, it was still there, but now it was laced with something new, something sharp and cold, a fierce desire for justice, not just for myself, but for those nameless victims. And in that moment, I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. This wasn't just about me escaping an abusive marriage. It was about exposing a dangerous man who had already caused so much destruction. The next time I went to Gabriel's house, a different kind of tension hung in the air. It wasn't just my fear of Robert anymore. It was the heavy weight of this new, terrible knowledge. I walked into that house feeling like a ticking time bomb. Gabriel, as always, was in his study, engrossed in his work. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the frantic beat of my heart. This was it. This was the moment I had to break my silence, to tell him everything, even if it meant exposing the deepest, darkest corners of my life. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump. I started with something mundane, about needing to order more cleaning supplies, just to get the words out, to hear my own voice. Then, I just blurted it out, my voice trembling but determined. "Gabriel," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "That Robert Miller you were talking about. He's my husband." The words hung in the air, heavy and raw. He slowly turned in his chair, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and dawning comprehension. The color drained from his face as he processed what I had just said, the implication of it all. It was clear he hadn't made the connection before that moment. He didn't say anything for a long time, just stared at me, his gaze intense. I could practically see the gears turning in his head, putting together all the pieces, the bruises, my fear, the man he was investigating. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, and I braced myself for, I don't know what, pity, disbelief. But when he finally spoke, his voice was surprisingly calm, devoid of judgment. "Sophia," he said, his voice low, "are you safe with him?" It was a simple question, but it cut right to the core of everything. And that's when I told him. Everything. Not in a dramatic, movie-like way, but just like it was. The constant fear, the escalating violence, the emotional abuse that chipped away at my soul, making me feel worthless. I didn't hold back, the words tumbling out of me like a flood, years of suppressed pain finally finding an outlet. I told him about the financial control, how he isolated me from everyone, how I felt trapped with no way out. As I spoke, the shame that had clung to me for so long began to loosen its grip, just a little. Gabriel listened, completely still, his expression a mixture of anger and profound sadness. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer empty platitudes. He just listened, his presence a steady anchor in the storm of my confession. When I finally ran out of words, my voice hoarse, he reached across his desk and pushed a box of tissues towards me. "Sophia," he said, his voice firm, "you don't have to live like this. We're going to get you out of this, and we're going to make sure he pays for everything he's done, to you, and to those families." It wasn't just a promise, it was a declaration, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I felt a genuine flicker of hope, real, solid hope. That conversation with Gabriel was the turning point. Truly, it wasn't just his words, it was the look in his eyes, the absolute certainty that he meant every single one of them. For years, I'd been living in a fog of fear and despair, convinced there was no escape. But Gabriel's unwavering resolve cut through that fog, showing me a path I hadn't dared to imagine. It was terrifying, the idea of leaving Robert, of facing the unknown, but the thought of staying, of continuing to live in that nightmare, suddenly felt even more terrifying. The fear was still there, a cold knot in my stomach, but now it was mixed with a powerful surge of something new, determination. The plan started to take shape almost immediately. Gabriel was incredibly methodical, which was exactly what I needed. He didn't rush me, but he laid out the steps, practical and clear. First, safety. He insisted I couldn't go back to Robert's house that night. He arranged for me to stay in a small, quiet apartment he owned, a place no one knew about. It felt strange, walking out of his house that evening, knowing I wasn't going back to the cage. The air outside felt different, crisper, as if I was truly breathing for the first time in years. It was a dizzying mix of relief and profound anxiety. The next few days were a blur of practicalities and emotions. Gabriel put me in touch with a lawyer specializing in domestic violence cases. She was incredible, understanding, and didn't make me feel like a victim, but rather a survivor in the making. We talked for hours, going over the details, building a case. It was hard, dredging up all those painful memories, reliving the moments I'd tried so hard to bury. But with Gabriel by my side, or just a phone call away, I found the strength. He wasn't just helping with the legal side. He was providing constant emotional support, a steady presence that kept me from crumbling. But then came the bombshell that solidified everything. The lawyer, with Gabriel's help, started digging into Robert's past, specifically regarding that construction accident. The evidence they uncovered was damning. Robert wasn't just a small-time manager who made a mistake. He was deeply involved in cutting corners, overriding safety protocols, directly responsible for the deaths of those 3 innocent workers. He had manipulated documents, bribed officials, and used his connections to cover it all up, walking away scot-free while families grieved. It wasn't just negligence, it was criminal. Learning the full extent of Robert's depravity made my stomach churn. It wasn't just that he was an abusive husband. He was a truly dangerous man, a manipulator who had ruined lives long before he met me. The realization fueled a new fire within me, a cold, unwavering resolve. This wasn't just about my freedom anymore. This was about justice for those families, for those lost lives. Gabriel saw it in my eyes. That shift from fear to fierce determination. "We're going to make sure he answers for everything," he said, his voice hard, and I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that we would. The days that followed were a whirlwind, a blur of meetings, phone calls, and the slow, painstaking work of building a solid case. Gabriel was relentless. He had resources I couldn't even imagine, network of contacts that seemed to stretch into every corner. He wasn't just helping me. He was truly leading the charge against Robert. He'd spend hours on the phone, digging up old records, cross-referencing information, his focus absolute. It wasn't just about the current abuse. It was about the years of deception, the lives shattered by Robert's greed and carelessness. Seeing his dedication, his unwavering commitment, it fueled my own resolve. I remember one afternoon, we were going through some old legal documents related to the construction company. There were so many technical terms, so much jargon, and my head started to ache. I felt overwhelmed, a familiar feeling of helplessness creeping in. Gabriel must have noticed because he stopped, pushed the papers aside, and just looked at me. "Sophia," he said, his voice gentle, "this is a lot. Take a break. We can pick this up later." It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. He wasn't just a benefactor. He was a partner in this, understanding when I needed a moment to breathe. As we spent more time together, working through the grim details of Robert's past, something else started to grow, something unexpected and tender. It was a subtle shift at first, in the way we looked at each other, the easy silences that settled between us. There was a shared purpose, yes, but also a growing warmth, a comfort that had nothing to do with legal strategies or court dates. He'd make me laugh, something I hadn't done genuinely in years, and I'd find myself looking forward to our meetings, not just for the progress on the case, but for his presence. It was a strange, delicate thing, blooming in the midst of so much darkness. I tried to ignore it at first, this budding feeling. It felt wrong, almost, to be thinking of romance when my life was still in such turmoil, when I was still legally married to a monster. But Gabriel wasn't pushy, never even hinted at anything beyond friendship and support. It was just there, in the way his eyes softened when he looked at me, in the way he'd instinctively reach out a hand if I looked stressed, in the quiet strength he radiated. It was a silent acknowledgement, a shared understanding that went beyond words. And slowly, cautiously, I started to let myself feel it, this fragile, hopeful sensation. The day came when the authorities finally moved. It was swift and decisive. I wasn't there, thankfully. Gabriel had insisted I stay somewhere safe, away from the chaos. He called me shortly after, his voice calm, but with an underlying current of triumph. "They got him, Sophia," he said. "Robert Miller is in custody." The words echoed in my mind, a profound sense of relief washing over me, so powerful it almost knocked the breath out of me. It was over. The nightmare, the constant fear, the shadow he cast over my life. It was finally, truly over. A new chapter, one I hadn't dared to dream of, was finally beginning. The news of Robert's arrest spread quickly, at least in the circles that mattered. It felt surreal, like watching a movie of my own life. One day, I was hiding Bruises, living in constant fear. The next, the man who caused all that terror was behind bars, and I was finally breathing free. The relief was immense, a wave that washed over me and left me feeling lighter than I had in years. But it wasn't just relief. There was also a profound sense of justice, knowing that the truth about the construction accident, about the lives he'd so carelessly taken, was finally going to come to light. The legal process was slow, as these things always are, but it moved forward. Gabriel ensured that. He wasn't just a bystander. He was actively involved, providing evidence, connecting with witnesses, making sure nothing slipped through the cracks. His dedication was unwavering, and it wasn't just for me. It was clear he felt a deep responsibility for the families of those workers, a fierce desire to see justice served for them too. Watching him, seeing his integrity and his tireless efforts solidified the growing feelings I had for him. He was truly a good man, inside and out. During this time, my relationship with Gabriel deepened in a way I hadn't thought possible. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic shift, but a gentle unfolding. We'd spend hours talking, not just about the case, but about everything. He'd tell me about his life, his passions, and I, for the first time, felt truly comfortable sharing mine. We'd share meals, work on documents, sometimes just sit in comfortable silence. It was in these quiet moments that the fragile hope I'd found blossomed into something more substantial. It was a sense of companionship, of being truly understood and valued. It wasn't spoken, not directly, for a long time. There was too much happening, too many heavy things to deal with, but the unspoken connection between us became undeniable. A shared glance across a table, a hand lingering a moment too long when passing a document, the way he'd instinctively know when I was overwhelmed and offer a comforting word. It was a language of quiet affection, of mutual respect, and of a bond forged in the crucible of shared adversity. It felt incredibly natural, surprisingly so, given the chaos that had brought us together. One evening, after a particularly grueling day with the lawyers, we were sitting in his living room. The lights were low, and a comfortable silence had settled between us. He looked at me, really looked at me, and there was so much in his eyes. Tenderness, understanding, and something more. He reached out and gently took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. "Sophia," he said, his voice soft, "you're incredibly strong. You've been through so much, and you've faced it all with such courage." His words weren't just compliments. They felt like a profound affirmation, a recognition of everything I had endured and overcome. And in that moment, I knew that whatever lay ahead, I wouldn't be facing it alone. That touch, that simple gesture, it spoke volumes. It was the first physical affirmation of the connection that had been silently building between us. My hand fit perfectly in his, a warmth spreading through me that chased away the lingering chill of fear and loneliness. We didn't need words in that moment. The unspoken understanding, the shared journey we'd been on, it all culminated in that quiet, powerful touch. It wasn't about fireworks or grand declarations. It was about a profound sense of peace and belonging that I hadn't known was possible. It was real, deeply real. The legal proceedings continued, steadily building towards a conclusion. Robert's defense was weak, crumbling under the weight of the evidence Gabriel and the legal team had meticulously gathered. Witness after witness came forward, details of the construction accident and his abusive patterns painting a damning picture. It was grueling to sit through, hearing his lies and manipulations laid bare, but also incredibly liberating. Each day in court felt like another brick falling from the wall that had imprisoned me for so long. I was no longer a victim hiding in the shadows. I was a witness to justice unfolding. During those intense weeks, Gabriel was my rock. He attended every hearing, sitting quietly in the back, his presence a constant source of strength. Sometimes our eyes would meet across the courtroom, and in that brief glance, I'd find the reassurance I needed to keep going. He wasn't just there for the legal fight. He was there for me. He'd bring me coffee, remind me to breathe, and just be a steady, calming force in the storm. It was in these moments, witnessing his unwavering support, that I realized how deeply I had come to care for him, beyond just gratitude. The verdict came down with a resounding thud. Guilty, on all counts related to the construction accident, and the evidence of domestic abuse was also noted by the judge during sentencing. The relief that washed over me was so overwhelming it nearly brought me to my knees. It wasn't just a legal victory, it was an emotional one, a confirmation that the nightmare was truly over. Robert was going to prison, and the families of those lost workers finally had some measure of justice. I looked at Gabriel, and in his eyes, I saw the same profound satisfaction, the quiet triumph of a battle hard won. Later that day, after all the media frenzy and the legal team debriefs had died down, Gabriel and I found ourselves alone, sitting in a quiet park near the courthouse. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden glow over everything. It felt like the dawn of a new era. He turned to me, a gentle smile on his face. "Sophia," he said, his voice soft, "what are you going to do now?" It was a question that felt loaded with possibility, with the promise of a future I was finally free to define for myself. And for the first time in my life, I truly felt ready to answer. Understood. Here are the next 5 paragraphs. I looked at him, really seeing him in that moment, bathed in the soft, fading light. His question wasn't just idle curiosity. It was an invitation, a doorway to a future I was finally free to build. "I don't know yet," I admitted, a genuine smile finally reaching my eyes. But for the first time in a very long time, I feel like I actually have choices. The thought was exhilarating, terrifying, and profoundly liberating all at once. It was a blank canvas, and I had the brush in my hand. And looking at Gabriel, I knew one thing for sure. He was a part of that canvas, a vibrant, essential color. We started spending more and more time together, not just focused on legal matters, which were slowly wrapping up, but simply enjoying each other's company. We went for long walks, talked for hours over coffee, discovered a shared love for old movies. It was during these easy, natural moments that our connection deepened, evolving from shared trauma and a fight for justice into something truly beautiful and authentic. He introduced me to parts of his world, and I, hesitantly at first, started to share pieces of mine, the parts that weren't tainted by fear. There was a day, I remember it so clearly. We were at a local market. The air was buzzing with sounds and smells, and I felt so incredibly alive, so present. Gabriel bought me a small bouquet of wildflowers, just because, and the simple gesture touched me deeply. As we walked, he turned to me, his gaze warm and steady. "Sophia," he said, his voice soft, "I know you've been through so much, but you deserve happiness, real happiness." And then he leaned in, just slightly, and kissed me. It wasn't a dramatic kiss, no Hollywood fanfare. It was gentle, a promise, full of tenderness and respect. It felt like coming home. That kiss sealed it, in a way that no words ever could. It wasn't just about escape anymore, or justice. It was about building something new, something hopeful, together. Our relationship wasn't born out of convenience or superficial attraction. It was forged in fire, built on a foundation of shared struggle, trust, and a deep mutual understanding. He saw me, truly saw me, not just the survivor of abuse, but the woman beneath, with dreams and desires and a strength I was only just beginning to realize I possessed. It was transformative. As the months passed, Robert's appeals ran out, and his conviction held firm. The families of the victims reached out, expressing their gratitude, and it was humbling. It reinforced for me that what Gabriel and I had done wasn't just for me, but for a greater good. My life had taken an unexpected turn, one I could never have predicted. From a hidden life of fear, I had found not only freedom and justice, but also a profound connection with a man who had literally saved me. And in doing so, had opened my eyes to a future brimming with possibility and, unexpectedly, with love. With Robert finally out of the picture and the dust settling from the legal battles, a quiet period of healing began for me. It wasn't an overnight fix, of course. The scars of what I'd endured ran deep, and there were days when the shadows of the past still loomed. But now they didn't consume me. I had Gabriel, yes, but more importantly, I had rediscovered my own strength, a resilience I never knew I possessed. I started therapy, something Gabriel gently encouraged, and it was invaluable in helping me process the trauma, to truly unpack years of fear and control. It was a slow, sometimes painful, but ultimately freeing process. Gabriel and I settled into a comfortable rhythm. Our relationship wasn't a sudden, passionate whirlwind, but a steady, growing flame. It was built on respect, on shared experiences, and on a deep, abiding trust. He never pressured me, never tried to rush things. He simply was there, a constant source of support and affection. We started talking about the future, not just my individual future, but our future, tentatively at first, then with increasing certainty. The idea of building a life with him, a life filled with peace and genuine happiness, was a dream I was finally brave enough to entertain. It was during one of our long talks that the idea for new beginnings really took root. I was sharing with Gabriel how isolated I had felt, how desperate, how much I wished there had been someone, some place to turn to. He listened, as he always did, with unwavering attention. "Sophia," he said, his eyes thoughtful, "you've been through this. You know what these women need. Why don't we do something about it?" The thought was audacious, overwhelming, but also incredibly compelling. It was a way to channel my pain into purpose, to turn my traumatic past into a beacon of hope for others. The initial concept was simple, a safe space. But as we brainstormed, the vision expanded. It wasn't just about shelter. It was about holistic support, psychological counseling, because the emotional scars are often deeper than the physical ones. Legal aid, because navigating the system alone is almost impossible. And most importantly, skills training and job placement, because true freedom means financial independence. We wanted to create a comprehensive program, a lifeline for women trapped in cycles of violence, to help them not just escape, but to truly rebuild their lives. Gabriel was instrumental in getting new beginnings off the ground. His business acumen, his connections, his sheer dedication. It was incredible to watch. He helped with the legal structuring, securing funding, finding the right people to join our team. I poured my heart and soul into the mission, drawing on my own experiences to shape the project's approach, ensuring it truly met the needs of the women we aimed to serve. It was a massive undertaking, but every step of the way, I felt a sense of purpose I'd never known before. This wasn't just a project, it was my calling. Launching New Beginnings was a monumental task, but it was also the most fulfilling work I'd ever done. We started small, just a temporary shelter in a quiet neighborhood, a place where women could find immediate safety. The first few women who came through our doors were shadows of their former selves, just like I had been. Seeing their fear, their brokenness, stirred something deep within me, a powerful empathy that transcended words. It wasn't just about providing resources. It was about offering understanding, about being a living testament that escape and healing were truly possible. Each woman had a unique story, but the underlying pain was universal. We had women who arrived with nothing but the clothes on their backs, some with children clutching their legs, their eyes wide with confusion. The initial days were always the hardest, breaking through the wall of shame and distrust that abuse builds. Our counselors, a truly compassionate team, worked tirelessly, patiently, helping these women start to process their trauma. It was a slow, delicate dance, earning their trust, showing them that they were finally in a safe harbor, a place where they wouldn't be judged. I found myself drawing on my own experiences constantly. When a woman would describe the manipulative tactics, the feeling of being trapped, I understood it in a way no textbook could teach. I could tell her, I know exactly how that feels. That shared understanding, that personal connection, often seemed to be the bridge that helped them believe in a future beyond their abuser. It wasn't about being preachy or dramatic. It was just about being real, about sharing the raw truth of my own journey from darkness into light. One of the biggest challenges was the cycle of abuse itself. So many women had been conditioned to believe they deserved it, or that they couldn't survive without their abuser. There were times when women would leave the shelter, only to return to their partners, only to come back to us later, even more broken. It was heartbreaking, truly. But we never gave up on them. We kept our doors open, our arms ready to welcome them back, understanding that breaking free wasn't a linear path, but a messy, often repetitive struggle. Each step, even a faltering one, was still progress. Gabriel was always there, a quiet force behind the scenes, ensuring the project had everything it needed to succeed. He handled the more complex administrative tasks, the fundraising, the strategic partnerships, freeing me to focus on the direct work with the women. He never sought the spotlight, always deflecting praise, insisting it was my vision. But new beginnings wouldn't have been possible without his unwavering support, his belief in the cause, and his silent strength. Our shared mission brought us even closer, weaving our lives together in a tapestry of purpose and love. The triumphs, though, were what truly sustained us. Seeing a woman, once broken and withdrawn, slowly regain her confidence, find a job, secure her own apartment. It was nothing short of miraculous. I remember one woman, Maria, who arrived absolutely terrified, barely able to speak. After months of therapy and support, she enrolled in a culinary program, something she'd always dreamed of. The day she called to tell us she'd gotten a job as a pastry chef, her voice brimming with pride, was a moment that made every struggle worth it. It wasn't just about escaping abuse. It was about reclaiming lost dreams, about building a whole new life. Maria's story, and countless others like hers, became the fuel for my passion. Each small victory, each step forward, solidified my belief in new beginnings and in the incredible resilience of the human spirit. It wasn't just about charity. It was about empowerment. We taught them not just how to survive, but how to thrive, how to stand on their own 2 feet, how to believe in themselves again. The transformation was often slow, arduous, but when it happened, it was breathtaking to witness. These women weren't just clients. They became a community, supporting each other, sharing their strength. My own personal healing continued alongside the project's growth. Being so deeply involved in helping others paradoxically helped me heal myself. It gave my past trauma a new meaning, a purpose beyond just my own pain. I could look at my scars not as marks of shame, but as badges of strength, as proof that I had survived, and could now guide others through their own darkness. Gabriel was always there, celebrating the small victories with me, offering a quiet comfort during the setbacks, a silent witness to my own evolving journey. Our relationship, meanwhile, flourished in a beautiful, understated way. There was no rush, no drama, just a deepening sense of connection and mutual respect. We found joy in the simple things, quiet evenings at home, walks in the park, planning for new beginnings. He was my partner in every sense of the word, in life and in our shared mission. It was a love built on understanding, on shared values, and on the profound experience of having faced immense challenges together and emerging stronger, both individually and as a couple. It felt like finding home after a very long, very painful journey. The project grew, expanding to include more comprehensive workshops, a dedicated legal clinic, and a network of employers willing to give our women a chance. We faced hurdles, of course, funding challenges, societal stigmas, the sheer emotional toll of the work. But every time we felt overwhelmed, we'd look at the faces of the women we were helping, hear their stories of renewed hope, and find the strength to keep going. New Beginnings wasn't just a place. It was a movement, a testament to the fact that even after the darkest storms, a brighter future is always possible. The reputation of New Beginnings started to spread beyond our local community. We received calls from other cities, other states, people wanting to replicate our model, wanting to learn from our successes and our challenges. It was humbling to see how much impact we were having, how a single, devastating experience in my life had somehow transformed into a lifeline for so many others. Gabriel and I often looked at each other in disbelief, marveling at how far we had come, how a chance encounter had spiraled into something so much bigger than ourselves. It was a testament to what shared purpose and dedication could achieve. We held regular support groups at the shelter, and I made it a point to attend whenever I could. Listening to the women share their stories, their struggles, and their small triumphs reinforced why we were doing this. It wasn't just about the physical scars. It was about healing the invisible ones, the ones that lingered in the mind and heart. We talked about self-worth, about boundaries, about rediscovering joy. These sessions became a powerful space for collective healing, a place where vulnerability was met with understanding, and where hope was not just a word, but a tangible feeling in the room. One evening, after a particularly emotional group session, I was feeling overwhelmed, yet deeply fulfilled. Gabriel found me in my office, quietly wiping away tears. He didn't say anything, just sat beside me, offering a comforting presence. After a moment, I leaned my head on his shoulder. "It's so much, Gabriel," I whispered. "The pain these women carry." He gently squeezed my hand. "I know, Sophia, but look at what you're doing. Look at the difference you're making. You're giving them back their lives." His unwavering belief in me, in our mission, was a constant source of strength. Our own life together continued to be a quiet joy. We learned to balance the demands of new beginnings with our personal lives, finding moments of peace and connection amidst the whirlwind. We talked about the future, about taking our relationship to the next level, but there was no rush. We had built a strong foundation, not just on shared love, but on shared values and a profound respect for each other's journeys. It was a love that felt earned, a precious gift that emerged from the darkest of circumstances. Looking back, it still feels a bit surreal, how everything unfolded from that one terrifying day. The day I tripped and revealed a bruise, the day Gabriel noticed, the day the truth about Robert began to unravel. It was a single thread that, when pulled, unraveled an entire life, and then miraculously started to weave a brand new one. My life had been irrevocably altered, moving from a silent prison to a life filled with purpose, love, and a profound sense of gratitude. The ripple effect of one person's courage and another's compassion had truly changed everything. The work at New Beginnings never really stopped. There was always another woman in need, another challenge to overcome, another life waiting to be rebuilt. And that's what kept us going, kept me going. It wasn't just a job. It was a living, breathing testament to resilience, a constant reminder that even from the ashes of despair, something beautiful could rise. The project became a cornerstone of our community, a symbol of hope for so many who felt lost and alone. It felt like every step I took, every decision I made, was imbued with a deeper purpose. Gabriel and I often reflected on how bizarrely perfect our meeting had been, how the universe in its own strange way had brought us together through such dark circumstances. We'd laugh about the initial awkwardness, the secrets I held, and how he, a complete stranger, became my unlikely savior. It was a love story unlike any other, not born of fairy tale romance, but forged in the crucible of shared adversity and a profound commitment to justice and healing. Our life together felt incredibly rich, filled with a quiet contentment that I wouldn't trade for anything. I continued to attend therapy, understanding that healing is a continuous journey, not a destination. There were still moments, unexpected triggers, where a memory would surface, a cold dread would creep in. But now, I had the tools to navigate those feelings, to acknowledge them without letting them consume me. And I had Gabriel, always there, a steady hand to hold, a quiet presence that reminded me I was never truly alone in my struggles. His understanding, his patience, it was a profound gift. Our work with New Beginnings also connected us with other advocates, other organizations fighting against domestic violence. We shared strategies, celebrated wins, and commiserated over setbacks. It was an entire community of people dedicated to making a difference, and being a part of it was incredibly empowering. Knowing that we were contributing to a larger movement, that our efforts were part of a ripple effect creating change across the country, gave our daily tasks a powerful significance. Sometimes, late at night, I'd find myself just sitting, looking out at the city lights, and thinking about that one day. That single, pivotal day when a bruise couldn't be hidden, when a quiet boss noticed, when a hidden truth began to surface. It wasn't a grand, cinematic revelation. It was just life, unfolding in its messy, unpredictable way. And yet, that ordinary day, with its ordinary actions, had detonated a chain of events that utterly transformed my world, leaving me with a profound sense of wonder at how such a mundane moment could hold the key to an entirely new existence. The legacy of that single day, the day my life irrevocably changed, continues to ripple through everything I do. It's strange, really, how one seemingly insignificant moment can set off a chain reaction that transforms your entire existence. The constant fear I lived with, the silent pain, it all faded, replaced by purpose and a quiet joy. I'm a different person now, fundamentally changed by the ordeal, but in the best possible way. The woman who once hid bruises under long sleeves is now a voice for others, a testament to resilience, and that feels like the ultimate victory. Gabriel and I often talk about how our lives merged, two separate paths converging under the most unexpected circumstances. Our love story isn't a conventional one, but it's deeply authentic, built on a foundation of respect, shared values, and the incredible bond forged through overcoming adversity. He's not just my partner, he's my confidant, my greatest supporter, and the person who showed me what true kindness and strength really look like. Our home, once just a distant dream for me, is now a sanctuary, filled with laughter and a profound sense of peace. New beginnings continued to thrive, evolving based on the ever-changing needs of the women we serve. We added new programs, expanded our outreach, and became a true force for change in the community. Every success story, every woman who found her voice and reclaimed her life, became another testament to the power of hope and the importance of having a safe place to land. It's hard work, emotionally draining at times, but the impact we're making makes every single challenge worthwhile. Sometimes, a memory of Robert flashes through my mind, a fleeting, unwelcome shadow, but it no longer holds power over me. He's a part of my past, a catalyst for the dramatic shift in my life, but he no longer defines my present or my future. That darkness, that fear, has been transformed into a driving force for good, a reminder of what I survived, and what I'm fighting to prevent for others. It's a powerful feeling, turning pain into purpose. And so, here I am, sharing my story on this forum. It's still hard to believe it all happened, how one small act of noticing, one moment of courage, spiraled into this entirely new existence. Life is unpredictable, isn't it? You can be in the darkest place imaginable, convinced there's no way out, and then, in a single, unexplainable day, everything shifts. It's like the universe just decided, nope, not this path anymore, and then presented an entirely different one I never saw coming, and honestly, still can't quite explain how it all truly aligned. It just did. Sometimes I catch myself just staring at my hands. They're still cleaning hands, used to scrubbing and wiping, but now they hold a different kind of story. They've held the trembling hands of women seeking refuge, signed countless documents for new beginnings, and found comfort in Gabriel's touch. It's a quiet testament to the journey, a constant, physical reminder of where I came from and how far I've traveled. It's a surreal feeling, looking at these hands and knowing the life they've led and the life they're building now. The project itself continues to be my everyday reality. There's a constant flow of women, each with their own unique tale of survival and hope. We celebrate every small victory, a secured apartment, a new job, a child thriving in school, and we support each other through the heartbreaking setbacks, the moments when the cycle of abuse feels too strong to break. It's a continuous learning curve, always adapting, always striving to be better, to reach more women, to break more chains. It's a mission that truly never ends. Gabriel and I have built a life that feels both extraordinary and incredibly normal. We have our routines, our inside jokes, our shared responsibilities, both at home and with new beginnings. Our love isn't flashy or dramatic. It's a deep, quiet understanding, a knowing glance, a comforting presence. It's the kind of love that grounds you, that makes you feel utterly safe and truly seen. He's my partner in every sense of the word, navigating the complexities of life and our shared mission with unwavering dedication. The memories of the fear, the pain, and the feeling of being trapped still exist within me. They're like faded photographs in an old album, visible but no longer sharp or painful. They serve as a powerful reminder of the darkness I escaped. And they fuel my passion for new beginnings. It's a unique kind of strength that comes from having faced your worst nightmares and emerging on the other side, not unscathed, but undeniably stronger. And so here I am. My life isn't a story from a book or a movie script. It's messy, complicated, and utterly real. It's a testament to how one day, one moment, one unexpected encounter can completely derail the life you thought you were stuck with and set you on a path you never could have imagined. It simply happened. A series of events that unfolded, leading me from a silent prison to a life overflowing with purpose, love, and an enduring sense of wonder at the unpredictable nature of fate. And to this day, I still can't quite explain how it all aligned so perfectly. It just did.